All right, what's going on? SEVelocity back, episode 8, I believe, coming at you, talking NBA Finals. Nothing like recording the night before and having none of your audio recorded. So, back for a retry. Do you want to say anything to people before we get into some basketball?
Yeah, hello everyone. It was fun talking to myself yesterday. Now we get to air the episode with some dialogue. So I hope you're looking forward to it. Let's do it.
Yep, nice. Like nothing like getting a nice hour and a half rehearsal recording yesterday for to talk today, I guess.
Hmm.
So, all right, let's get straight into it. Game one and game two have already happened so far with the Suns and Bucks. Suns are up 2-0. Some great play from Chris Paul, Devin Booker, of course. DeAndre Eaton particularly played really well too in game one. I believe he had either 20 rebounds or a little bit under that. Uh,
19.
19. Okay. So he played really well. He had 20 points too, shot a good percentage, 8 for 10, I believe. And then let's see here. We had Devin Booker had 27. He shot a little bit of a bad percentage, a little bit inefficient. He was 8 for 21. But Chris Paul, however, 12 of 19, 9 assists, and 32 points. Probably the player of the game, in my opinion. And got some good contributions from the rest of the team. McCall Bridges has been playing really well in the finals, particularly. Jay Crowder got 9 rebounds, which I said would be the biggest mismatch against the Bucks. He would probably struggle. He didn't shoot well. He was 0 for 5 from 3, but he contributed at least in the rebounding game. Cam Johnson and Cameron Payne both had 10 points off the bench. Some good minutes from them, 20 minutes each. And then let's shift to the Bucks. Giannis wasn't supposed to play. He was doubtful leading up to this, and then he played at the last second. He had 20 points. He shot 6-11. Shout out to him. 17 rebounds too. Big game from him. Wasn't enough. They lost by 13. Chris Middleton had 29. Mr. Batman. And then PJ Tucker only had 7. 17 from Brook Lopez, which is about what we would probably expect. And then Drew Holiday only had 10 and shot 4 of 14. But he did have 9 assists. I think the biggest surprise, though, from the bench is Pat Connaughton is getting 25 plus minutes in the first 2 games each. Bobby Portis only played 14 minutes game one. I believe he only played 5 minutes game two. So they're not using their bench that much, but except for Pat Connaughton, I believe mostly for defense. But he's been playing pretty well. Um, Obviously not starter material, but good enough. So, do you want to talk about anything before we get in depth regarding the game?
Yeah. Just overall in this series, I find it interesting how I don't know if the audience out there noticed the narrative around this NBA Finals is all about Chris Paul. All about Chris Paul. Now for the Suns, I'm pretty sure all of us would say that the Suns, like the face of that franchise and the superstar, main guy on the team is Devin Booker. Though this year in the playoffs, like Evan and I have said, we feel like Chris Paul's actually been their best player in the playoffs, and he's definitely been their clutch player. But I find it interesting how Chris Paul, who's widely agreed upon as the number 2 guy, has so much expectation on him right now, which I understand him being a veteran and this is his first time on the stage, and like I'm pretty sure majority of people are like biased in his favor. Like we want to see him succeed because we know what a great player he's been for so long and how like injuries has tarnished his postseason career. But at the same time, I'm afraid that let's say somehow they do lose, he's gonna get all of the blame for it, and none of the blame gonna be put on Devin Booker, who we've seen a couple games, not just in the final but in the playoffs, him going cold and not a word is said about it because Chris Paul is right there to like pick up where he's lacking in. So and Devin Booker is the one with the Kobe comparisons, which Evan doesn't like. In fact, there's been recent like talks about speculating now will Devin Booker become as great as Kobe, which is basically asking, or will Devin Booker become a top 10 player? Which, realistically, no matter how great you are as a player, like and at a young age, you can never predict if someone's going to be a top 10. You just have to see it happen. You can never really truly predict that, which is ridiculous. Um, but given that, all of that hype around him, but yet all the expectation is on Chris Paul. Like I don't like that because I'm afraid of what the narrative's going to be later on. Like if they lose, obviously, I mean Chris Paul, if he does play bad, like of course you're going to hold him accountable, but there needs to be accountability for Devin Booker as well. We can't just hype him when he goes out there like scoring 40 points, like what was it, game one, I believe, was it the last series? Was it this year? I don't even remember. He had a 40-point triple double. You can't just hype him for that and then just stay quiet when he has a bad game and just blame it all on Chris Paul. So that's what I have to say on that.
Yeah, so in regards to Devin Booker, I mean, specifically with the Kobe comparisons, I don't necessarily like comparisons in general. It's never a shot against a player who's currently playing. I just if someone's looking to be great, like specifically like Devin Booker, who we're talking about now, is I don't think you should ever. I mean, I'm sure it's an honor to be called like the next Kobe, but I don't think it should be ever. I'm going to be the next Kobe or something. It should be I'm the next Devin Booker. Like I'm Devin Booker. So like I feel like gearing towards you know a comparison. It's not his fault because I don't think he necessarily says that. It's mostly the fans, but like you should focus on your own greatness and build your own path. It shouldn't be, always the same storyline. Like I'm going to try to be like this person. It's always good to shape your career around someone like that. But I personally think that Devin Booker is his own player and he has his own game style in a sense. Some things are similar to Kobe, but not everything. So I like to see him have his own story and his own outcomes, whether it be multiple championships or he blows the series lead and they don't make the finals ever again. But like have his own path to who Devin Booker is instead of being Kobe Bryant 2.0. And yeah, I don't mind comparisons just for the sake of gameplay though. Like if there's certain things that he does that kind of look similar, sure we can make those comparisons, but I don't like direct player comparisons where like this person's the next Kobe Bryant. Like I don't like that. Um, Now in regards to Chris Paul, it's interesting because I'm really hoping that if they win the finals, that he gets as much credit as he would blame if they lose. Because I'm specifically worried that he could be potentially scammed out of the MVP if they win. First off, and I'm worried that Devin Booker is going to get all the credit if they win. Um, I think a lot of people consider this to be Devin Booker's team, but I feel like a lot of people forget that with Devin Booker, I know there was a few pieces that they didn't have last year. With just Devin Booker, though, they were nowhere close to the playoffs even. So I feel like Chris Paul's added a lot. I mean, Monty Williams too, we could talk about, but you can't give MVP to a coach. Um, but the amount of stuff that Chris Paul is contributing outside of scoring, even just leadership, ball distribution, pick and roll, and even defense, is unmeasured for what the Suns are doing right now and the chemistry that they currently have. I think that he brings this. I won't say adult because everyone's an adult, but like veteran presence where they're learning late game situations, they're figuring out what they should do, and instead of just focusing on scoring or something, they're finding the tools exactly needed to win, which might not always be scoring, but different aspects of the game. So I think that as long as they win, well, I mean, win or lose, I feel like he's definitely been the most outstanding performer for the Suns in the playoffs, and probably most of the season. I mean, the best scorer on the team is easily Devin Booker, but best overall player has been Chris Paul.
Hmm.
Um, just for everything he's contributed. So from there, let's talk a bit about the Bucks. Um, Obviously, we've discussed this. I wanted the Suns and Bucks to kind of face each other. I never expected the Bucks to make it. I picked the Suns to make the finals, but I expected the Bucks to lose to the Nets. But I think I said in the previous one of the previous podcasts that I would like to see the Bucks get to the finals, but it was just unlikely. Now that they're here, it's tough to root for a specific team because I'd love to see Chris Paul win a ring, but Giannis is one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player. So it leaves me in a tough predicament. But right now, I think you said it before. Chris Paul's older, so like I worry that he has less of a chance of making it here again. I think his team's better, but I don't know how long that'll last. With However, though, with the Bucks, the Nets are going to be most likely healthy next year, and there's a good chance that they're not going to be here for quite a while either. So it's difficult. I think that both teams are probably not going to make the finals in the next 2 or 3 years. I think you'll have LeBron and Anthony Davis healthy again. Um, you'll have James
And they
Harden,
did.
Kevin Durant, and
Yeah.
Kyrie healthy again. And there's not to mention other players like Jamal Murray being healthy for the Nuggets too, which will be a tougher matchup, and not necessarily a guaranteed win or loss. And then a rebuilt Utah Jazz, I'm sure with a few adjustments. And I mean, there's a few. Obviously, there could be a lot of free agent or trades that could come out. Kawhi Leonard could be healthy because they only lost by 1 game. So I mean, anything could change for those teams next year, but I worry that neither team's going to be here next year, so that makes it even more difficult. Um, but with Giannis, it's hard to sit here and listen to Kendrick Perkins, and I'm going to mention Kendrick Perkins every episode that the Bucks are on our podcast because never forget that he called Giannis Robin and Chris Middleton Batman. Chris Middleton outscored Giannis in the first game. I'll give him that. But Giannis is also playing after being doubtful with a hyperextended knee. So I feel like that's very important. And he got 17 rebounds. So I feel like even if he outscored him, it wasn't like he outperformed him drastically because he got a lot of rebounds too. Not to mention he scored 42 in game two. So I'm very tired. And Chris Middleton scored 11. We won't talk about that though. Mr. Batman. It's frustrating to listen to, and then Kendrick Perkins to come on the air and be like, I don't know why these people, why him and like Drew Holiday make so much money when you just called him Batman a few weeks ago. So it's a little bit aggravating. I do believe that Drew Holiday is performing well below expectations in the first 2 games. He's at least distributing the ball, but I don't think that's enough for now. I would like to see. I think ideally for the Bucks to win in the next few games, they need Giannis to score 30 plus, or they need all three of their players, Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Middleton to score 20 plus, or they need Giannis to score 30 plus and at least Middleton to score 20 plus to have a chance. And Drew Holiday to be efficient. And right now, none of that's happening. Like usually two out of the three players don't show up, and then the other one does. So that's a problem. We're also kind of seeing a little bit of a regression from Brook Lopez after his last 2 games against Atlanta. But we never really expected him to do that against Atlanta. In fairness to him, it's just now that we know he's capable of it, we would like to see that. Um, I I think I talked about this well when we recorded yesterday and it didn't work. I want to see more of Bobby Portis too. I mean, he only got 5 minutes in game two and only 14 in game one. I think that the Phoenix Suns are clearly the better 3-point shooting team, but with that said, I don't think they're the better team in the paint. So you have DeAndre Eaton, which is completely fair. He's a great player, but outside of that, your other biggest men on the floor are McCall Bridges and Jay Crowder, and I think that can easily be abused by Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. But if you're able to get a lineup in there where it's Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis, and then McCall Bridges is on Giannis potentially, and you have Chris Middleton playing a shooting guard, I don't see much of a chance for the Suns to do anything in the paint. So I would like to see that lineup a little bit. They showed flashes. Giannis wasn't playing, but they showed flashes of Portis and Brook Lopez together, and they coexisted really well in the starting lineup against the Hawks. Like they straight up bullied John Collins and Clint Capella in one of the games. So I would want to see more of that because those are two of the I won't say the best. Like John Collins is a great power forward, and Clint Capella is a formidable center. So I think that was a good example of what they could do at least against Eaton and Jay Crowder, because Eaton's kind of alone. I don't really consider Jay Crowder to be a massive threat. Um, but I think PJ Tucker is going to have to come off the bench if they want to have a better chance of winning these games in Milwaukee. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, like I was all you guys have heard me be critical of Giannis before, but I agree with everyone 100%. Like Giannis is in no way robbing on this team. He's the best player on the team. He is light years ahead of Chris Middleton. Now, if Kendrick Perkins wants to say that the Bucks would be a much significantly better team if Giannis had perimeter shooting in his skill set, then fine, because that's something everybody knows. And his free throw shooting, fine. But to sit up there and say Chris Middleton's a better player than Giannis is completely ridiculous. Now, I mean, I will say that we've seen that when Middleton, when they run the offense through Middleton, and either Giannis wasn't playing in the game, or like in the Miami series, when he just started essentially just playing inside more just to get the rebound and the putback to act as a third option. We have seen Middleton play at his best when like the ball's always going through him. But still, but I believe in, but that was just more so because of the matchup against the Suns team. Giannis has to be a driving force to put pressure on that team. And Giannis, like honestly, I have no criticism for him at all in this series. The only criticism that I'd have is just the usual. He can't shoot, which we all know. So I'm not gonna hold that against him. He's doing what he does regular season. He had a huge game the other night, 42 and double digit rebounds. Like we can't really ask for more from him. But Chris Middleton, since certain people want to call him the Batman, he's not even playing like a legit Robin right now.
Yeah.
Like, well, Giannis, we know is that interior force. Like, I've always said it for years. Like, Giannis obviously has the inside. Like, there's virtually nobody in the league that down the inside like Giannis. Chris Middleton's job is to hold down the fort on the perimeter. He should be their key perimeter player. Like the shooting, jump shooting, that's his role. That's what Giannis needs from him. That's the contribution the Bucks need from him, but he's not doing it. And
He's not
again,
shooting
like
well.
you everyone know, we know that Chris Middleton, he's a great shooter. He's a great shooter, but now it's a matter when he can do it in the moments where they need him to. Like that's the issue.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point right now where I honestly believe the Bucks are going to get swept. I think Giannis is going to end this series and being the best player in the series, but he's just not going to get the help he needs. Because I don't believe in Middleton. Because if we've seen him flame out in earlier playoff rounds, this is the biggest moment that team's ever been in, and the more pressure on that team. I don't believe he's going to flip it around this series.
Well, and I think the biggest problem is, we keep getting these weird games from Middleton. Like game one, he shot 5 of 12 from three. Game two, he shot 1 of 5 from three. But like against the Hawks, he had a game where he shot 0 of 8, I'm pretty sure, and 0 of 9 at one point. He gets on these random streaks where he's either hot or he's ice cold and he won't make anything. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to consider someone like that to be Batman if he's going to be folding in random playoff games.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hold him to a higher standard, and that's supposed to be a compliment. He's supposed to be playing better, and I'm sure he knows that too. But it's tough because like I don't think Giannis is playing bad in any way. I think he's playing
Oh.
some of his best basketball, and it's being diminished by the rest of the team's gameplay, especially Chris Middleton. Now, in regards to PJ Tucker, it's interesting because you see these, every team PJ Tucker's been on, like the Rockets, they run these small lineups because it works well for defense or it works well for 3-point shooting and ball movement. But now you're at a point where you're facing a 3-point shooting team in the Suns that is way better than you in 3-point shooting, and there's no I don't think it's necessary to run. I understand they have Giannis and Brook Lopez, so the lineup's not that small, but like there's no point of having PJ Tucker in there. He's not contributing enough offensively to be worth it on defense. I think that's why I've been pushing so hard for Bobby Portis to play because if you can't beat him at the 3-point line, you might as well beat him in rebounds and crush him in the paint. So I understand DeAndre Eaton's great, but he can't out rebound Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez and Giannis by himself with McCall Bridges and Jay Crowder next to him. There's no way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so at least with that, you're getting a bunch more rebounds, and I'll give you more opportunities, whether it be in the paint or mid range. You don't even have to shoot threes. You'll just get more opportunities, whether it be second chance points on offensive rebounds or just defensive rebounds, as long as you get to stop. Um, I I don't know if PJ Tucker is going to be as valuable as he has been in the series, like compared to previous playoff games. Like he was extremely valuable against the Nets. He did a great job. I know Kevin Durant like killed him with like 50 points every other night. But I mean, he was able to at least play as close defense as he could. But now you're at a point where he's not contributing enough to be worth it in the starting lineup. And I think it's time you try somebody else. And for me, I think it's another big man. And you have two big men. You move Giannis back to small forward, which is what he used to play, early on in his career. And he could still, run the floor if he wants, or play, in sort of a power forward position and just have three guys near the paint. And then you have Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton outside, and you could still get pretty good ball movement with that. So I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world, but that really depends on what Budenholzer chooses to do. Right now, though, I don't think the current lineup that he keeps setting makes sense, and I don't think Pat Connaughton should be the one getting the most minutes off the bench. He's played pretty well, but I think that there's, Bobby Portis should be playing a little bit more. I don't think many people on their bench though should be playing a lot. I don't think Forbes should be playing a lot. I don't think Jeff Teague should be playing a lot. I think your starters are going to probably have to play most of your minutes, but you have like if you have Tucker coming off the bench, I think that's a better look. I think that they're afraid to gas out their both centers simultaneously, but you could just keep shifting them in and out with Tucker. So I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world because Tucker's played 40 minutes before. So if you keep shifting him out for Lopez or Tucker throughout the game, even if it's for a couple minutes breather for either of them, you could probably make a better lineup and better chemistry, I think, in the long run. At least for this matchup. I'm not saying that Bobby Porter should start permanently, but for this matchup specifically, it makes sense. Um, and no, this is not my Knicks fan Bobby Portis coming out. This is just you know the way I think it should work against a team that is burning you with threes. You have to play a different way. You can't play them at their own game. You're going to lose every time.
Yep.
You only have one or two shooters in Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton, and neither of them are shooting well. So Mr. Batman is going to have to, either
Spread his wings.
yeah, spread his wings, maybe move to the mid range, or do something else because right now it's not working.
Hey, so I get, and then if he does actually show up and start shooting and stuff and start winning games, then we can say he's officially earned the Batman title for the team.
Absolutely not. Anyone who's called Batman while he has 11 points in the NBA Finals, while his Robin has 42, is absolutely blasphemous. Because watching Giannis, not to mention he shot, let me look, 15 to 22. 15 to 22, and he had 42 points, Giannis. But
Hmm.
no, he's Robin. He's Robin. He's the sidekick, And then Chris Middleton, I get to watch shoot 5 of 16 and 1 for 6 from 3 and only have 5 rebounds. And he had 8 assists. That was okay. But that's no Batman. Get out of here. Stop hitting me with that Batman talk. It hurts. It hurts my ears. It makes my ears bleed listening to Kendrick Perkins talk sometimes. And I'm sorry to trash talk like that, but I think that there's even if he's a former NBA player, I think that there's a line I could draw where I think that he's definitely wrong here.
Hey, oh, don't worry. You'll eventually get used to it and learn to shrug it off and laugh at it, because I both of us know a guy who constantly like slanders a certain player for over a decade, and then they happen to be my favorite player. But at this point, I just laugh it off.
Yeah, I don't watch Skip Bayless anymore. He's a clown. I can only listen to people like Stephen A. Smith and Max
Shay
Kellerman's got some out
Shay
there.
Sharp.
Yeah, him too. Max Kellerman's got some out there takes though too. So like I can't necessarily say he's always great with his takes. So I'm gonna say
Let's
primarily Stephen A.
let's
Smith.
let's be real. Stephen A. Smith has made some ridiculous takes too. Difference is when Max has a ridiculous take, Stephen A. just explodes and it blows up in the media.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about it. Because I'm just gonna sorry to talk about another network, but I'm just gonna bring up an example. I don't know if you remember this, Ev, but I remember it to this day. You know, I'm not a big Mellow fan, but Stephen A. literally said this, that the Knicks are like any team, they should take their chances on a Kevin Durant like with a torn Achilles, not knowing how he's going to come back, even knowing that he has to get surgery, you should take that guy, pay him the max over a prime Mello who's completely healthy. That sounds pretty out there to me.
Hey, just remember that the Knicks didn't even offer the max to Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
Absolutely blasphemous that you don't offer one of the best players in the world max contract. I don't care if he's coming off an Achilles injury.
yeah. That's why. Well, I was glad they did it because I didn't want that situation for KD. They don't deserve to get stars like
Yeah,
that.
and here we are. Kevin Durant said screw you and went right across to Brooklyn and dropped 50 points in the playoffs. I'm sorry, I know they got eliminated, but man was completely alone. And I don't want to hear this talk. Oh, James Harden was on the court. No, no. Hurt James Harden was on the court, who contributed very little that entire series. So, and there was no Kyrie Irving. He was completely alone, and he was the best player in the playoffs, and now he's eliminated. So, man, I am still annoyed about that. Thank you, Mr. James Dolan. 10 out of 10 owner, greatest man on earth. Love that he's my owner for my team. Wish he could be everyone else's owner too, because I would love to see him be the owner of the Heat and see what he does.
Yeah, I'm sure you would, but we have a great executive in Pat
Yeah,
Riley.
the big three would have never existed.
Yeah,
Well, let's talk about Game 3 predictions.
game
Milwaukee
three.
tonight in
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
yeah. What's it called? You heard me before. I'm calling it a Suns sweeping the Bucks.
I
Nope.
want to say you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. I hope to God you're wrong.
Oh, I know you hope I'm wrong, but I mean I've been wrong a lot this year. I don't know what's been up with my predictions, but I'm still gonna hold it. The Bucks, they're not giving me a reason to believe otherwise.
Best case scenario, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Drew Holiday show up in Milwaukee and they tie the series 2-2 this week.
Hmm.
Most ideal situation, or most likely situation, I think, is Milwaukee takes one and then they lose the other and they're down 3-1 going into Phoenix. Um, I hope that's not the case. I hope that they win both of them here, but I think they'll at least win tonight. Game 3, Milwaukee will win, and then the Suns will win Game 4. I hope I'm wrong though. I hope that they win both because I want to. It's not necessarily that I want them to win, but I want a good series. I'd like to see Game 7 in Phoenix. So yeah, I'll go Milwaukee by 5 tonight. And Giannis is going to be the leading scorer because he's Batman. And Chris Middleton is going to be a close second, I hope to God. Uh, and Drew Holiday is going to have 15 plus and be somewhat efficient tonight. And Bobby Portis better get more than 5 minutes in the game because I don't think PJ Tucker's that guy.
Bucks lose tonight.
If Budenholzer keeps making the lineups and adjustments he's making, they're going to lose every game.
Let's bear in mind, last game Chris Paul had a bad game too.
I just it's so hard because I like no disrespect to Budenholzer. I know his team's here, but Monty Williams is worlds better than him at coaching, at least in my opinion. I think that I don't want to call it a fluke that the Bucks made it here, but
I mean, we could kind of call it that.
they had very little that they had to run through to get to the finals. They had to who they faced in the first series. They were at
Well, it was the Heat,
Heat,
a,
which
ti- a tiny team,
garbage.
and then what's it called? A tiny team. Then round two, no Kyrie, and like as you said, like basically like just 20% of James Harden. Blake Griffin did play pretty well, but still not enough to like really be a
Yeah,
second guy. Joe Harris was, ugh.
yeah. I just measured it by the stars, and like
Yeah,
if you have a 20% James Harden versus a
yeah.
fully healthy, well, a 20% James Harden and Kevin Durant versus a fully healthy Giannis and a fully healthy Chris Middleton. Obviously, you're gonna pick the Bucks.
But hold up, but I want to talk about this again just for a sec, and I'm not calling you out here. It's just stuff that I've heard. Isn't it funny how now, like as you said, they're saying how Kevin Durant had no help, but at the same time, after Kyrie went down, and the Nets, like I forgot which game it was when they killed the Bucks. It's still everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, the Nets are definitely going to win this." Like people had lost all faith in the Bucks.
Yeah,
So
I think I lost most of my faith. I still had them. I think I had them losing slightly, but that was expecting James Harden to be fully healthy. Um,
but but I do want to point this out though with that Nets team. This is exactly for that reason in particular why I honestly was a bigger fan of that team prior to the Harden trade, because with KD and Kyrie and a plethora of elite role players that are effective on both ends of the floor, would have been a different. Like let's say hypothetically in this series, Kyrie was still out, and we'll say Dinwiddie was still out too. Kevin Durant would have a secondary scoring partner in Karis LeVert, who we know can get hot. So I think it would have. I think they would have had a better chance of beating the Bucks if they had the roster prior to the Harden trade,
I have an interesting
given the situation with injuries.
I have an interesting scenario for you because there's been some rumors that Joe Harris. I know he's under contract, but he could be traded after his performance in the playoffs. What if there's a package deal where he gets sent to Miami, not for Jimmy Butler, but for Victor Oladipo? Because I don't think Oladipo's necessarily been in the lineup enough to be really a piece for Miami yet. But
I will, yeah, I wouldn't mind that because I mean we need shooters. Cause first of all, and honestly, I don't know if this would happen, but I'd actually keep Oladipo and get rid of Tyler Hero.
yeah, because like I'm saying like with well maybe they'll get both. But like in regards to like the Nets, Joe Harris is fine and all. Like he's not a horrible player. He's a good role player. But with these injuries that the Nets keep having, you expect them to be kind of common. Like not no disrespect to Kyrie, he's kind of injury prone.
Yeah,
And we don't know if Kevin Durant's just going to be perfect the entire next year, and James Harden is usually healthy, but we don't know what to expect, from any player.
mm,
So it would be interesting to have not instead of Oladipo being starting lineup, have someone else in the starting lineup, but Oladipo coming off the bench as one of your sixth man who can give you 15 to 20 points off the bench. That could be really helpful.
but also, but did you ever consider this for the Nets that maybe not totally, but maybe part of why Joe Harris wasn't so effective in the postseason, but because he
Yes,
didn't really have like a playmaker to really set him up.
yes,
And Harden was their playmaker. Don't get me wrong, and we both gave him credit. He was doing a good job as a playmaker, but I think that he was in a way feeding Durant too much as a playmaker.
yeah,
And Griffin for the dunks. So, like I'm saying, let's just say I'm just going to use the Lakers for example, or we could even say Dallas with Luca. With like we know Harden in a way he made himself into a playmaker, which we both commended him. He did a good job. But LeBron and Luca are true natural playmakers. So I feel like they would do a better job because what where you see the difference in levels, guys like LeBron and Luca and Chris Paul, they know how to keep their guys in rhythm. They know how to
yeah.
control their efficiency. Harden's not on that level of playmaking. So I feel like teams like them could use him better than the Nets would.
I think Joe Harris took the most ideal shot. Like I think he took some worse shots than normal because of the ball distribution. But I do
Yeah.
think that he did miss a lot of open ones too. So
Yeah.
I think it's a little
Yeah,
bit of both.
definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that they could really benefit from getting a natural center. I know DeAndre Jordan's there, but I don't. He's
He barely played. They had Blake
yeah.
Griffin playing center.
That's what I'm saying. Like Blake Griffin can't play center. I think if you keep him
Oh,
at power forward,
give them Andre Drummond. Yes, give them Drummond. I mean, let's be honest. They could use Drummond more than the Lakers because the Lakers would need more out of Drummond than they would. Because we know where the points are going to come from. Literally, all Drummond will have to do is rebound for them.
yeah,
Literally.
they don't need the 20 point, 10 rebound Drummond. They just need the 20 rebound, 0 point Drummond. That's all they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that would probably be the most ideal. I mean, I used to be an Andre Drummond fan, but the way he's playing and vanished.
He was never an all-star to me. Like you
No.
might think it's blasphemous, but I'm gonna put this out there. At their very best, I do not care. I'm taking DeAndre Jordan over Andre Drummond on my teams.
What if the Nets retrade for D'Angelo Russell? Make them their sixth man. No, they
Oh,
should trade for
that's
Cat
yeah.
though. Or they should try to throw everything they can at getting Cat if they can.
But honestly, I think it'll be really interesting though, because we completely forgot that Dinwiddie was hurt too. So like, if he was healthy and given Kyrie and Harden getting hurt, Dinwiddie would have been a good sidekick for KD
Well, I think
against the Bucks.
Dinwiddie is a he played point guard or shooting guard. He used to play point guard, right?
Well, yeah,
I think he was, a top 15 to 20 point guard when before Kyrie was traded there. He was really good. Like
yeah,
he was scoring 20
yeah.
plus a game, but then he lost
Do you
everything.
remember? Do you? Well. I
He was
mean, he got
injured and he
injured.
lost
His
his spot
injury.
too.
Yeah, his injury was a problem, but while KD was hurt and him and Kyrie were manning the backcourt for a while, I'm sorry, I gotta jump blast here. F, do you recall the blasphemy that you said last year
Wh-
regarding those two?
which one?
Who did you say was better than who last year within that backcourt?
I don't remember to be honest with you.
You said that Dinwiddie was better than Kyrie last year.
I
I mean, in your defense, I will say I know it came from an emotional, like the moment perspective. Because both of us we were criticizing Kyrie for the nonsense that he was doing off the court and not showing up and stuff.
all right. In
But
fairness to my
then you took
argument,
it too far with that.
in fairness to my argument, obviously I said something similar to that, but I want to make sure I defend myself here because I want to
Mm,
say that when I was arguing, it was based off of efficiency and not necessarily raw skill. Because clearly Kyrie is better in every asset in raw skill, but Dinwiddie tends to play more efficient games. He usually shoots a decent percentage and distributes the ball really well. Kyrie does
yeah,
that too, but Kyrie tends to have games where he could shoot like 5 of like 18 or something like that, and he shoots really badly. Where Dinwiddie, if he starts shooting bad, he starts to distribute more, so he doesn't play the team out of the game. So I think it was
yeah.
from an efficiency standpoint, but it is still a blasphemous take. I'll give you that. Um, yeah, I do want to say it was from efficiency because obviously in any normal realm, Kyrie's better.
I think it was hyperbole because both of us were criticizing all the nonsense Kyrie was doing. So I think you just got frustrated, saying, you know what, Dinwiddie's been more valuable for them. Where Kyrie, he's either not there when he is
Yeah,
there, he doesn't care and doesn't want to put in
yeah.
work for them because
No dis
KD's not there.
no disrespect to Kyrie, but when you're not willing to play, even if you're healthy, it's very difficult to call you a more valuable asset than a very good point guard that gets to sit on the bench. I mean, he was injured, but when healthy, if that's the case, he's losing minutes and the other one's not playing at all healthy. There's an issue. So I maybe I probably a more valuable asset at the time is probably what I meant, but obviously the better player overall is Kyrie. Um,
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about. I think we kind of covered everything we can with finals and playoffs that I could think of. You, let's talk.
Oh,
What?
how can I say we could talk about the Olympics happening?
Oh yeah, we could do that. I was going to talk about coaches too. We could do that after coaches. So
Okay.
let's do Olympics first.
Okay.
So the Olympics, Mr. Batman's in the Olympics. Chris Middleton. Uh, Curious to see how he plays. They just lost to Nigeria in a tune-up game, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. I know
Yeah, and they blocked Kevin Durant. Yeah, that's how they won the game.
they shot. I think the team shot collectively like under 40% or 40%. It was
Yeah.
really bad.
I'll call out the roster for the audience in case you don't know. It's Bam Adebayo, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, KD, Jeremy Grant, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday, Zach Levine, Damian Lillard, Kevin Love, Chris Middleton, Batman, and Jason Tatum.
How the hell does that team lose to Nigeria?
Happens to the best of them.
I mean, Kevin Durant,
Oh,
I'm
I
pretty
know.
sure shot 4 of
He got
17, and I mean he
and
still had
got blocked.
17 points. So he must have been to the free throw line a lot. I obviously didn't get to see the game because I don't think they even air it. Um, and then I think Jason Tatum did okay, Damian Lillard did okay, but that team has 10 All Stars probably on that team, and maybe
Mm,
3 players that are fringe near the All Star level. And you lost to Nigeria by 2, which one of the last matchups they played against Nigeria, they won 156 to 73.
This is what I want to say really about this Olympic team. Like, I'm fine with everyone being there for the most part, except for Kevin Durant. Like this, we talked about it yesterday, but obviously it didn't
Yeah,
record properly. But I am of the mindset that the superstar, like the guys who are on the top of the league and in their primes, like around age 28 to 30 ish, guys like that, no business being in the Olympics. The Olympics should be reserved for guys who are within the first five. Well, I said first five last night, but Evan brought up the point that maybe give it a quota like a maximum.
like
They're
two
allowed to play
terms.
twice. So I'll say within the first half of their career, first 8 to 10 years of their career, are fine. But those guys who make it to the very top of the league, I do not want to see them in the Olympics. Number one, we don't need them in the Olympics to win. Number two, if guys want to sit out games when healthy in the regular season while the paying customers have to still pay full price ticket to not see the start of that game for load management, you better load manage the Olympics when the off season comes. Kick your feet up, load manage, relax in the summertime. But then when it comes for our games in the USA regular season, you better play. That's why LeBron James, he said that he's done with the Olympics. He's done it twice already. He has two gold medals. He doesn't need to do it anymore. You don't need LeBron out there. And like again, he's 36. Like I don't, with guys who are in the third, we don't want to risk and get injured out there for the Olympics, which means nothing to them. Like that's why I am honestly completely against Kevin Durant being there because I mean, many people say people are expecting KD to be even better next year because some claim he wasn't really 100% because he missed a whole year. There's Achilles injury and the surgeries and whatnot, but basically he came back looking just fine to me. But if we want to say he was at like 80, 85% fine, um, that means this summer he should be relaxed and resting to make sure he's completely 100% next season. Because Kevin Durant, I'm not going to say he's totally injury prone like a Kyrie, but he's one of those players who's more susceptible to injury than a guy like LeBron James. And Kevin Durant, like he's not a young guy in the league anymore. He's 33. So I think that 33-year-old man should be at home relaxing, watching the Olympics, supporting these young guys, like guys like Jason Tatum and stuff. Absolutely, absolutely, go out there and represent USA. But you, KD, you have no business being there. You should be at home.
I want to make so I obviously told you the other day that um I want players to be at least able to play in two Olympics because their first Olympics they could be in their early 20s and they might lose out on the spot on a starting spot or even a lot of minutes due to someone in their late 20s or something like that. So being able to play in two Olympics, the first one you're probably going to be more towards the bench, and then as you grow into a more prime part of your career, you're able to play more. But now, after having a little bit more time to think about it, part of me really does want to see the best 13 players in the NBA be in the Olympics because you have flashbacks of the Dream Team or even
The
Team
redeem
USA.
team.
Yeah, the newer Dream
Yeah,
Team where you had like
yeah.
you had KD, LeBron, prime
Kobe,
Carmelo, Kobe. You had everybody.
Wade,
Yeah,
KG.
there
Yeah,
were so many good players. So like um, anytime there's Olympic basketball and getting to watch Team USA, it's one of my favorite times. When
but
it comes.
hold on. But you got to remember though, there was a reason why they brought out that team, because it's called the Redeem Team for a reason. They had to redeem themselves because in the previous Olympic they had lost to Argentina.
Yeah.
Manu.
So yeah, I get that. It's just like I feel like Chris Paul was on that team too, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
And like
believe so.
that team kind of turned into a fraternity. A lot of those guys hang out today, like Carmelo, LeBron, Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade. They're all like best friends.
Well, they were boys from I believe
Yeah.
even before that.
But like it would be cool to see the top 13 players because it's just similar to the dream team stuff. You just know that's the best of the best. So like, and I love the Olympic games when it comes to basketball. Like I like to watch most of the Team USA games. So just seeing a lineup of absolute powerhouse, like the best of the best, is just always
That's
intriguing. But always like
that's what the All Star game's for.
the All Star game is worthless. I would rather watch the Olympics. Um,
Are you kidding me with the new format? Look at how competitive the All Star games have been now. I understand back in high school, like I understand that. Don't get me wrong. With the new format, those games almost look like NBA finals.
I think that the game's still good, but there's still a lot of a lack of defense and still a lot of joking around.
Not in that fourth quarter when it comes. You got to be get up by what was it? Get up by 21 or something like that. It's a whatever rule when the shot clock goes off. There was hella defense, especially the first round. You just forget
It
how
just
tired the players were at the end.
there's not
LeBron told them saying we need to put on a show.
there's just not much incentive when it comes to the All Star game, and it's only one game. So like if you get to watch Team
Yeah.
USA play multiple games and there's a direct incentive to win the gold medal for your country, I feel like that's just
How much?
more entertaining.
How much? How much incentive do you think they really have in the Olympics? I bet you they're clowning around because they know they're way better than the other teams
But
there.
that
Like
makes it
it's not
funnier.
competitive. It's not competitive. Like the All Star game is more competitive
Like
than the Olympic games.
like imagine Kevin Durant and Steph Curry well, I mean, we've already seen him on the same team, but like Steph Curry throwing one of those big bounce pass alley oops just in the middle of a game in the Olympics. That would be great.
I,
I mean,
no,
disrespectful but great.
I want to see a competition. Like I can bet you. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm barely gonna watch any of these USA games because like
I'll watch.
it's just it's not entertaining at all to watch if we're just gonna destroy the other teams by 100 points.
I just want to see Team USA versus Slovenia so we could see Luca go against Team USA.
Oh, what now? What I would say, what I would be interested in, if only they were all from the same country. Or you know what? They should actually allow like the former Soviet countries to like unite. Because imagine Luka, Jokic, and all the guy Kristaps playing together against Team USA. Now
That would be
that would
interesting.
prove for the best Olympic matchup ever.
Yeah, you have a few guys over there that are really good too. I can't. Oh, Boban too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Boban and Milos Teodosic.
yeah, yeah. No comment on him.
Yeah,
So I don't know. It would be cool to see the best of the best, but obviously at the same time, like when you have flashbacks to Paul George and whatnot, I always fear injury. Yeah,
you know what the worst part? That was during a tryout too.
yeah, like that. It's always scary. Like you want to see them go out and show their best, but there's always the concern of injury, and you don't want to. It's like obviously injury is bad enough, but then on top of that, it's like the loss of money that they get too. Like they lose a bunch of money on potential contract or something like along those lines, and not playing. So, and I don't know about you, but I personally feel like Paul George has not been the same since that leg injury. He showed way better this year, but the last three years before that, he was not the same at all.
You know what? I'm gonna say opposite. I believe obviously not right away as soon as he came back, but I think from his year in OKC when he came back, I think he was actually became a better all around player. He definitely wasn't as explosive and
Yeah,
athletic as prior to the injury, but his perimeter shooting got way better, and
I
his
th-
passing and rebounding. Here's the difference though, we saw the first time Paul George was ever an MVP candidate. I think he was the top three was his final year in OKC. The thing is, we started seeing playoff P George Paul get exposed in the playoffs. That's where we noticed him a fall off.
I think yeah, and I think the problem is when he had that nasty injury is you're forced to become like you said he lost his explosiveness. He was forced to be a better shooter. He was forced to do all these other things. So it improved him in that sense, but like imagine if he was able to work on that in general and still have the explosiveness. Like
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
be
he would have
incredible.
been he'd been even better. But still, but for the part of folding in the postseason, that was not had nothing to do with lack of skill, explosiveness. That was up here.
Mentally, yeah. So I think that we covered pretty much everything we can in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Let's talk about coaches. So some coach movement. First, we'll talk about the Wizards. They got rid of Scott Brooks. Now Scott Brooks is headed. He was a former OKC coach for those of you who didn't know when Westbrook was there as well. So they had pretty good chemistry. That's why he went to. I think him and that's why him and Westbrook reunited in Washington. But now he is headed to. Scott Brooks is headed to Portland, but as the assistant coach under Chauncey Billups, who was the assistant coach for the Clippers, and was probably the top coach, the hottest coaching candidate I could think of that was on the market this year. Maybe outside of Jason Kidd, who was very popular too. Um,
Hmm.
which obviously we heard Damian Lillard say he wanted Jason Kidd as his coach. And then after saying that, Jason Kidd rescinded his pursuit of the job and ended up taking Dallas's job a week later. I mean, from Jason Kidd's perspective, you played for the Mavericks for a long time. You won a title with them. I think that makes complete sense. You would always want to coach the team that you played for versus Portland. So that's not, I don't think, a shot at Portland. I think it's just a matter of, you know, knowing Mark Cuban and knowing the organization. Um,
I think that's another thing to bring up too. The type of superstar like Luka Doncic being like a phenomenal playmaker, and Kid was as well. It's a perfect mentorship opportunity for him.
yeah, I think Kidd can definitely help him with his distribution, a little bit, and kind of have a Chris Paul-esque kind of role in a sense, where he's kind of showing him late game scenarios of what he can do differently. Maybe help him spill a drink too to get a free timeout, like he did, a couple of years ago on the Nets. And then Chauncey Billups, I really do like in Portland. I think that he's going to fit really well because he kind of has a similar game style to Damian Lillard, big time 3-point shooter. So I think Chauncey Billups is more of a distributor too, but maybe he can give that asset to Damian Lillard, even if it's on the court, like actual teaching him, because he's still young enough to kind of show him stuff physically too. He doesn't have
Don't
to just
forget
explain it.
defense.
Yeah. So
Defense. Mm.
I really like him there, and I think something that no one's talking about is I think that he can kind of revive CJ McCollum back to an all-star type player. If he puts in a lot of effort with CJ McCollum shooting and then even driving to the basket and getting mid-range shots as well. Um, and then
But
defense, like you said.
here's the thing, because Damien was not necessarily big on the Chauncey thing, and that's the route the franchise went. Maybe that could upset him, and it might be the thing to like drive him out from Portland. He said he wants to be a trailblazer for life. We know these players, like the words like that's not religious to them. Like situations can change.
Yeah.
So do you see Damien on walking out or
Uh,
even demanding a trade? I'm not sure what his contract status is.
Not yet. I don't think he hates Chauncey Billups. I think he really wanted Jason
Yeah.
Kidd, but I think him
Yeah,
airing
it would
that
have been
out is the
frustration
reason.
with the yeah, it would be frustration with the franchise, not at Billows, but them not giving him what he wants, the Portland franchise.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because I think that Damian Lillard voicing that he wanted Jason Kidd kind of put Portland in a bad position because like then it felt like they kind of had to hire him. But at the same time, not only that, it made the Mavericks have a sense of urgency in hiring Jason Kidd instead of Portland getting him to him first. So the second I think he aired that, and said that to the media, I think Mark Cuban instantly called up Jason Kidd basically and said, "Hey, we really want you to coach here." And then that's when Rick Carlisle resigned. So I think Damian Lillard was fine doing that, but I think him saying that made a sense of urgency for the Mavericks to sign Kidd, and then Kidd also rescinding his offer to go to the Trailblazers. So I think it's a little bit both on Portland and Damian Lillard, but there's a lot of hate from the Trailblazers fans for him saying that, and I don't think that should be necessary because he's your best player, and I think that each similar to LeBron and many other players, many other star players, they want a coach that they feel like can provide success. Like Ty Lue, I insulted him for the longest time, but he worked really well with LeBron. So, and that was mostly his choice. He said he wanted Ty Lue as his coach, and clearly it was a way bigger step up from David Blatt. So, it I think that Chauncey Billups is going to be a really good coach in the NBA. I would say top 10 probably by next year. We'll see though. I could be completely wrong. Um, but out of the new signings, I do think he is the best signing out of all three. Because you have him, and then you have Carlisle going to Indiana, and then you have Kidd in Dallas. And I think Kidd in Dallas is good, but Kidd overall as a coach in his previous coaching tenures with Milwaukee and Brooklyn, he wasn't necessarily a top tier coach. He did make
Well,
mistakes and he did make interesting decisions at times.
I think what I've heard many people say what they commend Kid for is the type of coach he is. He's a good coach for player development for young
Yeah,
stars. Like let's be real, he did wonders for Giannis.
yeah, absolutely. So I think that it'll help. I think it'll help Luca, but I don't know if it'll help like guys like Boban or shoot, I'm trying to think of the name.
Chris Dobbs.
Well, yeah, Kristaps. I don't know. I think he's gonna be gone soon. But like Boban and like Jalen Brunson, I don't think it'll help those guys. The role players or um, less key starters. It'll help Luca a lot though. I think directly. Um, Rick Carlisle though, however, I think is interesting because he's known for making teams into something with almost nothing. I know he had Dirk, when they went to the finals, but Dirk was already very old at the time, and he had to rely on a bunch of other players, like an old Jason Terry, I believe Sean Marion, but like
Jason Kidd.
kid. But these guys were all at the tail end of their career too, so I think he runs good enough schemes where like you have Karis LeVert, I think will get better because of it. I think Miles Turner will play better too. Um, I don't know though what their ceiling really is. I mean, yes, the bonus too, but like they need more there in general. I don't think that's necessarily on Carlisle, but I think that team can get better under Carlisle. They just need more pieces. Uh, yeah, I would say Billups is definitely the best. Um, and speaking of coaches, watching Monty Williams talk to DeAndre Eaton about confidence and telling him, you just hold yourself to this high standard. It's okay. This is in game two. You hold yourself to such a high standard. That's why you're upset at yourself because he had I think he only had 10 points, 11 rebounds. Um, but like he was inspiring so much confidence for someone who's a year younger than us. He's 22 years old. But to be able to motivate such a young player like that, it helps so much. Like, sometimes it's good to tear someone, apart and just yell at them. But like someone like DeAndre Eaton could be, like everyone's got different motivators when you have a coach. Like some need confidence and need a boost. Others need to be yelled at and told, like this is what you're doing wrong. And I think Eaton's one of those guys who, just needs confidence or motivation put into him. And I think Monty Williams in that little conversation did wonders. Um, but my whole point here is I don't know how that man didn't win Coach of the Year over Tom Thibodeau. And I'm a Knicks fan saying that. So listen, it's as a Knicks fan, it's very easy to put your starters out for 45 minutes a game. That's why Julius Randle and RJ Barrett had the most minutes total this entire year out of any NBA player, 1 and 2. So all I'm saying is it's very easy to play your starters 24/7. Um, he did run some good schemes, but compared to Monty Williams, I don't think it's close. Yeah,
I guess it was just based on regular season.
yeah,
If they're taking into account playoffs, I don't think Thibodeau would be top three.
yeah. Bottom three. Do you want to contribute anything else? Do we want to talk about anything else?
No, I think we're good. Just be prepared, everyone. Next time we're on SEVelocity, the Bucks will be at home, and CP3 will have his Finals MVP, and the Suns will be the victor. First championship in their history.
We'll see you next week when they're down 3-1. Hopefully. Well, without further ado, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the work week. I know tomorrow's Monday, but enjoy basketball tonight. We got Suns versus Milwaukee in Milwaukee, game 3. Hopefully Milwaukee can make the series interesting and take a win tonight. I think game 4 is Tuesday or Wednesday. I want to say Wednesday. But enjoy the game. Sit back, relax after work. Have a good day. And please like, comment, subscribe. Um, you know,
Especially comment. Please, we want to see more comments.
yeah, like we're looking for more stuff to talk about as we approach the off season. I know we're gonna. I mean, it's a given we're gonna talk free agents and a draft, but there's always topics that we would like to add. Maybe comparisons about certain players. Who we think's better, or potential landing spots for certain players, or
It's Space Jam.
please God, don't bring up Space Jam in the comments. That's all I'm asking. You can bring up the first one if you want, but please not the second one. Uh, but other than that, please just you know give us some stuff to talk about. I mean, we'll find some stuff on our own, but it's always good to talk about stuff that people who watch want to talk about. So other than that, have a good rest of your day. Have a good week. Enjoy some basketball. Sit back, relax, enjoy some sports, and we'll see you next week.